You're listening to the Cars of Carlisle Network, podcast episode number 105. Mark Fletcher. Classic Restos, Australia.
Cars of Carlisle is your favorite internationally downloaded podcast about all things automotive. Darren and his CFC team are ever searching for interesting automotive happenings, real stories about real car people, and fun features to inform and entertain you. Each week, the Cars of Carlisle crew brings you show topics ranging from car shows to team adventures to auto racing weekends to behind-the-scenes human interest stories from car nuts that live across town, across the country, or even across the globe. Come join the road trip.
Today, meet Australian television personality and car show host Mark Fletcher. Fletch, as he's known by his thousands of fans all over the world, has a larger-than-life personality. With his deep knowledge of classic vehicles and a social, approachable nature, he makes friends instantly no matter on what continent he is filming his car show. With over 600 episodes broadcast across television networks in 4 countries, Fletch has been entertaining his viewers with his wit and charm since 2006. Right along to hear of the amazing places he's been to interview car owners, from New Zealand to the islands of the South Pacific to Route 66, and even to the fairgrounds of Carlisle Events. It's time to go down under, mates. So, let's get revved up.
Hello and welcome back, Cubers, to your favorite informative automotive podcast. I am your trusted host, Darren, and this is episode 105. We're going to be talking to our friend in New South Wales, Australia, Fletch. And so excited for you to meet this dear friend, an all-around outstanding car guy. As you'll hear, Fletch knows classic cars and he knows people inside and out. In fact, not only does he produce and host one of the most popular television programs in Australia, New Zealand, and the UK, he is definitely an uplifting, positive, and just high-energy person that brings, quite honestly, happiness to all corners of the globe. In fact, you may not know this, but Fletch has been the voice of many businesses, commercials, and customer service on-hold messages and beyond, and he has done a lot of media work. So strap in, you're going to have a ton of fun with this week's guest. But first, let's get into some business. Special thanks and shout out to our friends at Porsche Mechanicsburg. By the way, in speaking with the general manager of Porsche Mechanicsburg by email this week, the Porsche Taycan launch event that was going to be held at the Country Club of Harrisburg, originally scheduled for May 8th, will be rescheduled due to the pandemic situation. So stay tuned on that. And as far as the car show season in Carlisle, the current situation has certainly had an impact there. I have Mike Garland, the public relations manager at Carlisle Events, on the line. Hi, Mike. Thanks for giving the CFC community the latest news on the 2020 Carlisle Events show season. It's been a real roller coaster, hasn't it?
I'll tell you what, Darren, it has been quite a spring so far for the team at Carlisle Events. This whole COVID-19 thing has really flipped the script on what we all accept as normal, and I think that once we get going forward with car show stuff this summer, we're going to see some necessary changes, but we also hope to have the same kind of fun. The reality is I'm actually connecting today because we just announced the change in dates of the Carlisle Ford Nationals. Usually this event takes place early in June, but due to everything that's going on, we've moved the show to July 31st through August 2nd. That means a new gate and go deadline as well of June 22nd. So Ford Weekend becomes yet another car show casualty, if you will, being rescheduled from early June to July 31st through August 2nd. Additional schedule changes for us, Darren. Spring Carlisle and its auction. That now happens in mid-June. Spring runs June 17th through June 20th. The auction is June 18th and June 19th. We do a summer sale auction in June, and this year only, we have canceled that auction. The summer sale auction will return to the schedule in 2021, and the Import and Performance Nationals event, which was originally scheduled to take place in mid-May, is now taking place in August 14th through the 16th at the fairgrounds. But people can get all the info on our season schedule. Everything's a little out of whack this year now, but go to carlisleevents.com, and that's where you will get a full rundown on everything that's going on with the car shows at Carlisle this year. And we're working on some cool incentives to further encourage folks to want to come out. We'll have those details once completed as well on the website, carlisleevents.com. Thanks, man. I hope this was useful.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike. We'll talk to you soon. So, everybody, this week's trivia question will honor Australia in the sense that Mark Fletcher, our guest, Fletch, is from Australia. So, question stands as this. What is the name of the car brand that formerly manufactured cars in Australia? And I will give you a hint. For decades now, a major U.S. car manufacturer has had a significant financial stake in this company. And to our global listeners, you know that we've been each week trying to do a shout out to a country or countries that have been following us among the 44 around the world of the Cars of Carlisle fan club, the Cubers. And this week, we're going to give a nod to our friends in Brazil and Portugal. So at the closing of this episode, listen for me as I do my very best in Portuguese. I don't know about that, but we'll give it a shot. And one more point of business to talk about. I've been talking a little bit about the virtual car show that we've been working on. We are working in partnership with two other companies. That is Motor Girl Studios and Carlisle Customs, Classics, and Coachworks. And this is going to be called the Courage, Courage Car Show. And that's going to be held on May 23rd. That's the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend. The Courage acronym stands for Car Owners United Rallying Against Global Epidemics, and it's essentially just a virtual car show, and there are many out there. This is going to be putting 100% of all proceeds to a particular charity, and that is Feeding America. We want to support Feeding America in the sense that they have over 100 food banks throughout the United States. So all the advertising, the award plaques, everything, the celebrity forums, everything is being provided by the team, the committee that's running this, of which I'm part of that, and everything is all 100% of the funds raised by the sponsorship and by individual donations are going directly to Feeding America. So definitely check that out. Go to our website, www.carsofcarlisle.com. Click on the Pennsylvania license plate in the upper left corner of the splash page, and you can walk right through each of the steps. We'll get you through the gates of the virtual car show, and would love to have you be part of that, along with your car or cars. Enter those in. Very small donations will get you part of this, and everything, like I said, is going 100% to Feeding America and helping those less fortunate. Can't wait to have you be part of that. All right, so for now, let's head to Australia and talk to Fletch. Hello, Cars of Carlisle fans. This is Darren, and I am with Mark Fletcher tonight. Fletch, how are you?
Fantastic, Darren. And you know what? A very extra special meaning for me to talk to you, knowing you're at Carlisle. I've got a very soft spot for Carlisle, Pennsylvania. I go back a long way with Carlisle and the people there. Love you guys. It's a pleasure to meet up with you.
Well, thank you so very much. For the listeners, and as Fletch and I have been talking, the listenership to Cars of Carlisle podcast is all over the world. So we're talking to Fletch tonight. Or it's actually 7:30 p.m. Eastern here in the U.S., in Carlisle, USA. And Fletch, for you, it is 9:30 in the morning in New South Wales, correct?
Absolutely. I've been up since 5 a.m. because I had to look good for you, Darren. I had to get on the good Yes, it's the Fletch, being a fine stance of a man that he is. He has to get his apparel on and talk to such a fine gentleman as yourself.
Well, you are. We're on a Skype, so audio. Of course, it's audio for my listenership. But I'm telling you, Fletch looks dapper. He's got his sport coat on and everything. So.
Yes, and I have to admire that's a nice shirt that you've got on too, Darren. I love your doors in the background, the paint scheme there in the room. It's kind of like as I'm on there. You know what I mean?
That's awesome. That's great. Well, thank you so much for being here. For those in the U.S. that may not know, Classic Restos is a show that you've been doing 13 years now, somewhere in the 550 episodes. Am I right? Or close on the stats?
Yeah, it's actually over 600 episodes now, Darren, and around 14 years of production. Okay. And talking of Carlisle, around about 40 episodes have been done through Carlisle Events. I have to mention Carlisle Events. Mm-hmm. As we mentioned earlier, I go way back with Carlisle and being an integral part of promoting them. And, of course, the owners, Lance and Bill Miller of Carlisle. And I've got some deep roots that go back there. And very proud to say that over those years, there's around the 40 episodes have been produced out of Carlisle. And while I was in Carlisle as well, over those 6 years, it gave me some opportunity between shows to go and film, the odd person or a museum or something as well. So it was all about showcasing Carlisle and, helping to get Carlisle even more so on the map.
Well, and we thank you. In fact, I was just watching an episode, I think it was episode 7, part 2, was November 12th of 2012. And in that, a fellow Aussie walks up to you on camera, and they had learned of Carlisle through your previous year's visit to Carlisle, and then made it a goal of theirs to get to stateside and to see what Corvettes at Carlisle was all about, which I thought that was really great how your show opened a door to people who then thought, I'm going to make the trip all the way to Pennsylvania in the United States to see this.
Yeah, it's a long way to go to get a cup of sugar.
Or a quart of oil.
Well, what amazed me when I first started going to Carlisle Events, when you look at a country the size of the United States, where you're a little bit larger in land mass than here in Australia, but you've got like 12 times our population, which stands for a lot of stuff. So let's look at the visual side for a second. All the producers that you have there, the TV shows that you have there.
Right.
And I knocked on the door of Carlisle, and at that point, there wasn't one TV show doing regular episodes there for them. So I was actually the first guy from Australia to get through that gate of Carlisle and do 2 episodes for their Ford show, 2 episodes for the GM show, and 2 episodes for the Chrysler Nationals, and that happened for that 6 years in a row. So I've got to say, even to this day, I feel very proud of that. There might be other people there now doing a bit of filming, whatever, but to me, that doesn't matter. It's kind of like, there's no points for second. You know what I mean?
That's right. Absolutely. Well, it's well earned. And in fact, I know with the situation right now in the pandemic that affects all of us, no matter where we are, it could very well curtail some things, but would love to have you back over and certainly from a native standpoint, you know a lot about this town and about the car culture here, but glad to open even more doors for you and perhaps get you exposure to a lot of the guests that have been on this show, and perhaps it could be good fodder for Classic Restos.
Absolutely, and that is beautiful to know, because my time is not done there. I could walk into Carlisle tomorrow and feel it was just like yesterday, and that's a fantastic report. So it's the same with New Zealand. Classic Restos goes to New Zealand. It goes to the islands of the South Pacific. I think I've got the last cannibal there waiting and watching the show. There's a man on the pedal box there generating the power as someone awaits in an oil pot with logs underneath, and that guy, with his last meal, he gets to watch Classic Restos, which I think is beautiful.
It is. It brings a tear to the eye.
Not half as much as the tear in his eyes.
That's right. He earns that meal.
Yeah.
Well, talk a little bit about, I know you've been in really kind of the show business and everything from a very, very young age. One of the things I found interesting as I did some research on you in the bio is the fact all the commercials you've written and produced and acted in, the different voices you can do, from that of a child to a female to an older curmudgeon of a gentleman, and just even voice impersonations. Obviously, you're just a great entertainer, and I've watched, of course. I use YouTube as my my means to see Classic Restos, but I've enjoyed even just to see the different styles and the places you've visited. In fact, I know that the Isabella and Marcus Foundation, that was a recent episode of yours, and the fact that it is run by families that have been directly impacted, and you're doing such good things for that. And we may care to talk a little bit about how you got your start. How did you know you were a bit of a car nut? When did it all come to a boiling head for you, Fletch?
Well, just a little bit quickly about the Isabella and
Yes,
Marcus Foundation. If there's one show that I do every year that hits the heart, it has to be that one.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of car shows, Darren, they stand for great stuff. 99.9% of them are for charities, and the money goes to those charities. And, okay, Fletch goes along. Fletch does an episode of Classic Restos. It helps promote that event so that more people turn up next year, which hopefully that adds to the charity side of it.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon me. The Isabella and Marcus Foundation, though, for a car show to be ran by parents, not car clubs, but by parents, and that's why it's the only show of its kind for Classic Restos. It actually works that way, whereas other shows are put on by car clubs, which makes sense.
Of course.
But for parents that have lost children to put on this show, and that started with something like about 70 cars back in 2010. They've moved their premises 3 times because it just keeps growing and growing. And now they're at a beautiful field where it's in 2 sections, and even that now is spilling over from people.
Wow.
And Classic Resto, well, I've been there 90% of those years. So
Sure.
It might be all of them. I might have missed one year in the very beginning. I don't know, but I'm pretty well there for all of it.
Sure.
But yeah, the entertaining side of things with myself, mainly in school, I got sent out of class for actually disrupting the class. That was really the biggest thing I used to get in trouble for at school.
The teachers knew you.
I was basically a pain in the ass.
PITA, as the acronym goes, right? Yeah.
There was I think I was about 5 or 6 years of age, and I was at this hall at a suburb of Sydney, and we in Australia in the early like 70s, we had we've got jelly, but you guys, it's different. Jelly in Australia is like a gelatin, that you have in a bowl. You put some ice cream with it if you want.
Okay.
Well, you guys over there, if you say jelly, that means like what we call jam, what you
preserve.
smear on your toast, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, the song back in the day to advertise the jelly was I like aeroplane jelly, and this was part of the TV commercial. So they asked these kids to get up on stage and sing the I like aeroplane jelly song, and I think I was the youngest kid there, whatever, and I got up in front of a couple of hundred people, sang this song, and I don't know, the family got a big box of jelly. We had jelly for like 12 months after that. That was, so I can say that my first prize for doing anything in front of people, Darren, was a whole box of Jell-O.
That's good.
So, and over the years, things haven't changed much.
That's right. Payday brings out even more Jell-O, so...
Still working for Jell-O.
Oh, that's good. When did you have that epiphany or that moment that you just knew, and I know you've been an entrepreneur and in business for yourself for 25 years or more at this point, but when did you know that something that was vehicle or car or transportation related was going to be where your future was?
Well, I started off in the 80s. I worked for companies for 10 years. Like a lot of people, you get up in the morning and go to work, and you work for the company. And I wanted to, always strive in those fields and, do well. But where it started was like at a party on a Saturday night, and they'd say, they'd listen to the radio station. You know how you go to a party and the radio would be on, They say, do a voice, Fletch. Everyone say, do a voice, Fletch. Ring the radio station, do a voice. So I'd ring the radio station, do a voice. And, the radio station guy, the DJ, would say something like, hey, that's really cool. Hey, look, can you ring me back next Saturday night? And so I guess back in the 80s, I started then writing comedy to suit the voices and started on radio. I wanted to get into television, but forget it, because you can't just get into television unless you're a well-known sporting personality or, you've just got out of jail from killing somebody. No one wants to know you. And you've really got to do something extraordinary for a TV network to say, we want that guy. So because I got more knockbacks than you'd care to believe.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of giving up, I thought, okay, if the major networks don't want me, I'll just start doing my own productions and I'll go around the outside of the lot of you. And I can remember saying to a major network in around 1991, I think, I said, I want to present for your TV show. And they said, yeah, you and thousands of others. And I said, yes, but the difference is, in 25 years, I'm still going to be here.
Ah, good. And you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just something that it doesn't matter about what I do or what anyone does in a career. We're all the same. If you want to achieve, you just have to grab that ball and run with it and never give up. It doesn't matter what field you're in. That's my best advice to anybody. You want to dangle the carrot in front of yourself hard enough, you will get to that goal one day. So I did everything in those years to establish myself to get up to Classic Restos. So there was telephone on hold messages for companies. I had over 1,000 of those that I scripted and voiced. There was corporate DVDs back in those days where, a company would give you a presentation on a DVD to produce. I think then it went to websites and I don't know if you can't caring for that much these days now. There was the knocking on the doors of companies writing radio commercials, and I'd go and voice those for them. I started doing car shows where I'd turn up and do the show on a DVD, and you'd sell it back to the car club with like 50 copies.
Okay.
So there was entertainment at clubs twice, 3 times a week where suit and tie, and you turn up and do the promotional roles at our clubs here. Might have been raffling a chook, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, right,
you had a couple hundred people, right? So without putting you to sleep and boring your audience, this went on for years and years and years and years until 2005, where someone said, Fletch, why don't you put some of your car stuff on a certain TV network? And it went from there.
All right. Outstanding. Well, for those that haven't been familiar with that, I encourage any listener, no matter what country they're in, to definitely check out Classic Restos. Talk a little bit about those early years, sort of the building your following, building your base, getting your foot in the door with events. How did you, because one of the things that I can say that I'm not the first to say this by any means, but anyone who has spent time watching your show, it's the warm personality. It's the fact that you can step up to anyone. They feel very comfortable in just a matter of moments to share a story about the vehicle. You create a real bond and a rapport, approachability that then they begin to open up and talk about, this was my grandfather's car. I have a memory of this, and whatever it might be, that people feel very, very instantly connected to you with that. And that's a major tribute to your personality and the fact that you make people feel very warm and accepted from the moment you put that microphone near their mouth, which is great.
Well, thank you, Darren. They're lovely words. I think we all have a gift at some level. We're all technically good at something, and if there's something that I have been born with, in my case, is the communication gene and being able to communicate with people, and that's something that I do enjoy doing. And it's a funny thing. You can turn up and talk to somebody, and within 10 minutes, you know half their life story. So sometimes people can confide in you to the point they feel that comfortable where, wow, look, it takes me, I have to allow 9 hours to film to get about an hour and a half of footage. So it takes me 9 hours to get an hour and a half of footage, and out of that hour and a half of footage, I'll get a 26-minute TV episode out of it.
Wow.
And that's basically the ratio. So you have to allow that 9 hours, because in that 9 hours, that's people coming up to you, people wanting to talk to you. I feel sorry for the ones that if I'm walking through a crowd, because I've got no crew, so I'm carrying my camera, my tripod, my gear, and I'm walking through the crowd. I feel sorry for the people that have walked the other way and have said, hi, Fletch, and I haven't heard them. Yeah, I would hate to think, oh, he's a rude bastard. I said hi to him and he just ignored me, So, I mean, that's on your mind as well. And you think, well, but you can't please everybody, but I always make time for people, yes.
Well, good. Well, and it's one of the things that I think that resonates, and certainly your fan base is all over. I mean, the fact that you've made friends wherever you've traveled. Do you have a point in your life where you knew that you were just had this car bug like we all talk about? Because I know in that interview back in 2012, Lance Miller, to paraphrase him, said something along the lines of, he said, I have motor oil pumping through my veins. I'm just a car nut through and through. When did you ever have a moment where you just knew at a young age or whenever that you were truly a car fan?
Yeah, when I was a young kid, I never played sport.
Okay.
I was never into sport. I'll tell you now, Darren, you would not want me on your team.
Okay.
You would not want that. The other team would, because I'd probably end up giving the ball to them. But I was always mechanically minded. So we had. Were you familiar with Meccano? Like a metal piece set that you used to put bits together and make things as a kid.
No.
It was actually came from England many years ago. It was this kit stuff that you used to build things out of, right?
Okay.
So when a lot of kids might have been out in the yard kicking a ball, I was in my room building stuff.
Engineering,
and it's amazing the stuff I was making then and the things you'd learn, like ratios with cogwheels and making little gearboxes and things like that. It's amazing how that knowledge from an early age of 7 or 8, I use that knowledge now when we talk about diff ratios and understanding how a drive line works in a car and all this type of thing. So I always had this interest of cars, and I grew up with cars, like all of us. We all had cars around us. Mm-hmm. And there was just something about cars that stuck with me. My first words as a child when I started speaking were car-related words. They were actually gas stations. I used to know the names of the gas stations.
Wow.
And, yeah, they were my first words. I'd point and say the name of the gas station. So, yes, it goes back a bit of an illness from a long time ago, Darren, yes.
Oh, we all suffer from it. It's chronic, yeah. I get it. I totally get it. Well, what are some of your fondest memories of, obviously, you do so much of your own work and put a lot of your sweat and toil into it, but in those early years, when now it's 2005, you're getting the classic Restos up and going. Talk about maybe those first 12, 18, 24 months, certainly trying to get established. What are some of what did you go through?
It takes years to get established, and it's almost like years and years of having to prove yourself. It's like as though nobody wants to pay you anything, nobody really wants to know you, but if you aggravate them long enough, you wear them down, and then, well, they start realising what you can do. And until they realise what you can do, it's your responsibility never to give up in the meantime.
Right.
So you've got the combination of wearing them down slowly and them getting to know you, and then in the background you keep on going as well. Mm-hmm. So in the early days, it's about getting sponsorship. Now, sponsorship is selling, and I'm used to selling. I've been selling, I don't know, over 35 years. So I'm used to selling. So when I was told in 2005, I had the idea for Classic Restos, and I thought to myself, you know what? I'll get a mate's car, I'll get a buddy's car, and we'll film it, and we'll do a bit of a prototype, and I'll send it away to this station and see what they say. So we did this demo, sent it away. They rang me a few days later. They said, love it. Start sending us episodes. And it was like, yes, this is it. This is my opportunity.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, well, how do we go with funding? They said, there's no funding, buddy. You get your sponsors, and that's how you're going to make your living, and that's how your costs are going to be covered. Mm-hmm. So, okay, I had to get sponsorship. So then I was knocking on the door of a company, or companies, trying to get money. They didn't know me. Mm-hmm. Who the hell was this guy? Mm-hmm. But I just kept going and going, and 2 companies believed in me from day one, and one of those companies I still have 14 years later. Now, and that, of course, is Shannon's Insurance. They are just amazing.
Yes. Well, and I wanted to take a moment, and I know just for is it Pace Farm Eggs, Heron Forbes Machinery House, the other?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We also have a Gunlow Concrete. We have a a big concrete company here in New South Wales as well,
Okay.
and of course Shannon. So basically, really quickly, Pace Farms eggs is interesting because people say, how come you got eggs on the show? And the thing is this, look, there's a very special reason why there's eggs on the show. Number one, we all like eggs. Well, most of us do. And secondly, the guy that owns that company collects classic trucks. And his name is Frank Pace. And he's an absolute gentleman. He's on the World Egg Board. I mean, Frank, what he doesn't know about the industry is no one's business. He's an amazing guy. Now, I went to Frank's place about 7 years ago, and I filmed some of his classic trucks, and we did an episode at Frank's personal house. And Frank was so impressed with what I did there, he has then supported me with the show ever since. So that's where the Pace Farm eggs come from. Hare and Forbes Machinery House, brilliant company. They've been around since 1930. I knocked on their door about probably 4 or 5 years ago, and they've been hanging in there with me ever since as well. And they've got a whole heap of cool stuff. The name says it all. So you can buy online.
What type of things do they sell? Heavy equipment?
Tools. Yeah, tools. Yeah,
Okay.
It's, if you go to machineryhouse.com.au, you'll see there's so much stuff that they do. It's their 90th anniversary at the moment as well, which is a huge accolade for them too. Mm-hmm. And the way it's going, with the way we're going with products these days and selling, to be able to support people, keep them all going, and that's the name of the game as well. So they've been great, and they've got a huge array of stuff. It's the sort of place, Darren, where when you walk through their door, you do the impulsive spend. You walk out with stuff you didn't even intend to buy.
Sure. You didn't even know you needed. Yep.
That's it. And then, of course, the Shannons, well, that goes without saying. Shannons are great. And because it goes back with a guy by the name of Robert Shannon, who started the company, and he wanted to look after the little guy with a classic car. So, in other words, a little bit like myself, he wanted to go around the outside of the big players and have his own insurance company to look after the little guy.
I see.
And that attitude of Shannon's still infiltrates today. That same passion is there to try and look after the little guy with their classic bike, car, or a classic truck.
Mm-hmm. Right, and it's really us, the little guys, that make it all tick and happen. So that's good to hear about that. So obviously those first 12, 24 months, and really every year since then, it's about, what I'm hearing, Fletch, is it's about the hustle. It's just really knocking doors and getting out there and working hard every single day.
It's, I don't want to make it just sound like it's about me. Anyone listening to your podcast, Darren, that's been in business will know exactly what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. It can be tough. Not so much for the stage I'm at now. Everything's just rolling along nicely these days. But goodness me, it's been a reflection of over 30 years to get to the point that I am now. It's a culmination of everything that's been done over the decades. You still can't be complacent, but I'm not going through what I used to for many, many years in that establishment period. You'd lose sponsors. They'd let you know a week before the end of the series. You had a week to get another sponsor. The stress was really hard. And back in those days too, a young family trying to build houses and pay off a house, and you've got the family pressures as well of finances and all that type of thing. And here you are, self-employed, and you're trying to get through every week. And, some weeks were fantastic. You'd rub your hands together and say, wow, I would never, ever get paid this amount of money working for a boss. But then you'd have other weeks where you wish that probably you had half that amount payable to you from a boss. Sure. So you had to ride the lows and enjoy the highs, but just try and stay balanced. And no matter what came along, I went through and came out the other side. Here I am now.
Right. Well, outstanding. And that's for an entrepreneur like myself that's in that first 2 years, I turn to people like you and draw inspiration, because I know it takes a lot of diligence and persistence, and you have to, like you said, lead yourself with that carrot. I mean, we haven't missed a week in over 2.25 years, and you just make it happen. You set your schedule and you just keep plugging ahead.
I believe that, Darren. The thing is, you'll never hear me use the word luck when I talk business. Mm-hmm. You'll never hear me use the word luck. I don't believe there's any such thing as luck, because anything that good comes to you, you have made that happen.
Yes.
If someone comes on and gives you an opportunity, that's from your efforts that you have done in the past. It's not luck. Yeah. It's about 10 years, 15 years. It's about what you've got to do to make that happen. Mm-hmm. Luck might be opening up the door of your car and you look down and there's a $20 bill down on the curb and you pick it up and put that in your pocket. That might be called some luck. But then you'll find on that same day something will cost you $20.
Right. Easily. The washing machine goes out. Now it's $200, $300. Yeah. No, I hear you.
So I do believe that everything that we do, whether it's anything, sport, career, whatever you're into,
sure.
It all comes back to how much effort you want to put into what you're going to get out of it.
That's right.
So
imagine that as you were getting more comfortable, building in the sponsorship, building your contacts, you're now going to different events. They're getting to understand who you are. Classic Restos is becoming more widely viewed and known. How did you scale? How did you grow? How did you expand your business enterprise, Fletch?
Funny enough, the first network was in Sydney, and it was a community TV station, and I thought, community TV station? I thought, how good is this going to be? I tell you what, never underestimate the power of a community TV station. And I'll tell you why. Whether it's a fishing show, whether it's a cooking show, whether it's a car show, anyone that's interested in any subject whatsoever, they don't care what channel it is.
Right.
So if it's not a big mainstream channel and it's a smaller community channel, if people can tune to that station every week, they will be there. And I had huge audiences, really, really big audiences there. And that was happening in Sydney. And about 4 days later, I got a call from the affiliate network in Melbourne. And they said, we believe that you're giving this car show to Sydney. And I said, yeah. And they said, we would like that. And I said, sure, you can have that. So next thing I had Sydney and Melbourne. And then I thought, hang on a second. If this station's in Sydney and Melbourne, what about Adelaide, Brisbane and Perth? So straight away, online, found out their numbers, called them up. Yes, there was one there, And then within a week, every cap city in Australia was running Classic Restos.
Wow.
So then I thought to myself, well, what about the bigger picture? What about New Zealand? There's always the United States. There was always you guys. You guys here were always in the background. I wanted to get to the United States. I had this thing in me to get to you guys. But I thought, righto, baby steps. Sometimes they're baby steps. I tend to go for the jugular sometimes, just go bang, straight in and make that call, So there was a very, very good friend of mine that I met actually in Fiji. We were on holidays, and he was telling me about the car fraternity in New Zealand and how big the car fraternity was there. And I was blown away because, with all due respects to our wonderful Kiwi neighbours, I had no idea that the car game in New Zealand was as strong as it was. Still is. And so anyway, contacts there for the Americana event started. And then next thing you know, I was going over to New Zealand every year and doing an Americana event, which, Darren, would blow you away. Do you know that this event celebrates you guys? It celebrates the American lifestyle.
Wow.
And a lot of Americans don't even know this happens. New Zealand have an event once a year called Americana that celebrates the American lifestyle.
Isn't that something?
That means people, they dress up in the Uncle Sam outfit, American cars.
Okay.
And so I go and film that every year, and I've been doing that for, 11 years or something now.
Wow. No, I was not aware. I truly wasn't.
So, and then, of course, there was the phone call to a fellow by the name of Ed Brzeski at Carlisle Events. Now, I believe that was around about 2009 that I called Ed.
Okay.
And, yeah, Ed
what a great guy.
from a bar of soap. And he listened to what I had to say, and he covered my accommodation tab. I self-funded the trip to go over there with a very good friend of mine by the name of Jeff, who's a local guy here that came with me that trip. So I self-funded that just to make myself known, and Ed got me through the door there, and that's how I started there with Carlisle.
Well, Ed Brzeski is a special guy. In fact, he is. I've been introduced to Chrysler and Mopar clubs, and he's just a walking encyclopedia.
He is. Mm-hmm. He is an amazing guy, and there's something like what I love about Ed. He's so calming to talk to. I don't think I've ever heard him raise his voice. He's got a very nice mannerism about him, and that certainly reflects in his job. People respect him as technically the manager of one of the, if not the largest Chrysler show on the planet.
Yes,
and that is something that is a massive accolade. It's a massive accolade to Ed Brzeski himself, and of course to Lance and Bill Miller at Carlisle Events.
True, hear to that. I totally agree. Are there elements then, as you began to expand? Obviously, you went to New Zealand. You had all the. What happened next? What was the next growth step for Classic Restos?
Well, I thought to myself, well, what about London? What about Papua New Guinea? Getting back to the cannibal in the hot pot,
Yeah.
Getting his hot pot fired up with the last man in there. What about these little islands in the South Pacific? What about Canada? All these places. So I knocked on the doors there. Now we've got MAV TV in Canada doing a wonderful job for Classic Restos. I don't know how much of Canada, but apparently there's a large part of Canada now on MAV, M-A-V TV.
And I'm familiar. I'm actually very familiar because I took my Corvette into... participated in the Rally North America, which MAV TV actually covered that last July. So I'm very familiar with MAV TV. I had a corporate sponsor sticker MAV TV on the back of the Vet, so I know all about it.
Well, that's cool. Well, that really is cool. So they're doing a great job there. And the show goes to London each week, but I get emails sometimes from Ireland and places in Europe, and I'm thinking... It's now at the stage where I don't really know where the show is going.
Sure.
So one of the hardest questions to answer is, from a company, how many people watch your show each week?
Yeah.
I can never answer that.
Yeah.
I can never answer that.
Yeah.
And because you know how it's such a ratings world, it's such a numbers world, it's such a figures world. And I just reverse that and say, well, look, I can't give you any accurate figures, but if a TV show goes for 14 years and I still retain my sponsors, there should be enough evidence there to feel, make you feel secure in either having me come along and wearing some expense to get me there.
Sure. I think that's extremely well articulated, yes. And to me, that a lot of these shows, no matter what they are, that may do very, very well, they could be a flash in the pan. They may do great for 2 or 3 seasons, and then they fizzle out, and the next thing comes along. It's very rare to see something that lasts over 10 years.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think from a company perspective, too, with sponsorship, is you can't have the mindset that just because you sponsor someone that your phone is going to run off the hook the next day. It's a momentum thing where people in the psyche remember who the sponsors are.
Yes.
People that watch Classic Restos, okay, eggs, they think of Pace Farm. Tools, they think of Machinery House. They might only go to Machinery House once or twice a year, but the fact is they went there.
Right, exactly. Well said. Now, are there other elements and development points or milestones that you'd like to mention about Classic Restos and how it's approached this current era, if you will?
Darren, I've got to say that you are the first international podcast. It's an honour to speak to you, so there you go. There's an accolade for Classic Restos.
Thank you.
All these years and all these episodes, I get to talk to you, Darren, but not only do I get to talk to you, it goes back to Carlisle as well, which is extra special too.
Sure. Well, and if I may interject for a moment, I always, in my bio and on the website, I always say that I'm fortunate to live in what I feel is the epicenter of the swap meet world. The fact that in 1974, Bill Miller II, Chip Miller, they created something amazing. And it is, I remember when I was in my early years, I was maybe 10, 12 years old, walking around the fairgrounds with my father and some of his friends, an uncle or two. And before credit cards were, of course, everyday use as they are now, it was nothing to see someone from the Netherlands or Germany with a briefcase, and it would be handcuffed to the wrist. And as a young, inquisitive kid, I'd say to my dad, "Why is that briefcase handcuffed to his wrist?" And my father would say, "Well, he probably has $150,000 or $200,000 cash in it." And that individual would be purchasing cars and shipping them across the pond back to Europe or whatever it might be. And then at that young age, I realized, wow, that's all happening here in little Carlisle. So.
Absolutely. There's a lot of cash in that briefcase. Otherwise, he really values his sandwich.
Right, exactly.
A swap meet, well, that's just the reflection of our cars, isn't it? And that's another note too, I guess, with Classic Restos. What is Classic Restos about? Well, Classic Restos is about interviewing the owner or the temporary custodian of a classic vehicle. Classic vehicles, I believe, they have a soul. I really believe that, and that's a subject for another day, but I believe that. And the stories that come along with the cars are amazing as well. What I like, the challenge is, one challenge might be from someone that you talk to is, are you into cars? No, I'm not into cars. No, I've got no interest in cars. And what you say to those people is, okay, when you cast your mind back, when you're a little boy or a little girl, is there a car that you remember? Can you at least answer that for me? Mm-hmm. And they will always say, oh, yeah, it was an early Holden that my uncle had. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Would you like to have that car? Would you like to have that Holden now in your garage? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, absolutely right. Mm-hmm. You've got them. Mm-hmm. Now, you've just transformed this person that had no interest in classic cars to then trigger at least a passion zone to be interested in that vehicle.
What you're saying?
And that's what Classic Restos is about. It's about finding out what history you can. I love the history of the vehicle. If you're there with your Corvette and I'm interviewing you, Darren, and you can tell me about the dealership, up at Allentown that it was sold in, or it ran around Allentown for 25 years and it sat in a barn. That's the stuff. That's the stuff I find intriguing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what your viewership loves and I enjoy about your show. It's that provenance. And to your point of a vehicle having a spirit, a soul, it just it speaks to you. And I love how you are able to pry that out of someone. We've all been on first dates. There likely was a car involved. We all remember riding around in the back of a station wagon as a child, or and a big bench seat of a grandfather's larger than life car or whatever. And when you tell people those things, you can almost go back and smell the leather. You can smell the upholstery. You can viscerally go back to that moment in time.
We had in Australia, what was called a panel van, which was kind of like you guys didn't actually get panel vans. You got station wagons, but the panel vans, they're kind of like a station wagon without any glass in them. They're just a blank van that was attached with a car front, so to speak. So we're not talking a Chevy van or a Ford van. We're talking a car, but on the back we've got an enclosed section. Okay. Now, they were aimed at our youth market. They put a mattress in the back. They put the surfboards on the top. They'd park them at the beach. Yeah, you got it, Darren. There's probably half of Australia's population was conceived in the back of those damn things. There's one thing, as a parent with a daughter, you never wanted to see one of those wagons pull up in your driveway.
That's right. I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all.
So we had those panel, what we call a panel van. In light of the American vehicle, though, and this is where it gets back to television and movies. See, about 85% 95% of our television in the 70s here in Australia was American content. So we grew up with, being hit with all this American stuff, and it's the movies you guys did, and it's all the TV shows. It's MASH, it's the Brady Bunch, it's it's Hogan's Heroes, it's a whole list of TV shows. We were continually bombarded with American content, and what came with that was, of course, your police shows, your Hawaii Five-0, your Dirty Harry, all this sort of stuff, right? Which came with big cars.
Yes.
And we didn't get those big full-size cars sold here in Australia. The people that had money could get a hold of them, but at dealership level, walking off the street, you just didn't see these big full-size, like your Galaxies, your Chrysler Imperials, and your Cadillacs. We did not have those dealerships here then. We had our Falcon by Ford. Well, we had our Ford dealerships, our General Motors dealerships, and our Chrysler dealerships. But 90% of the time, 95% of the time, selling the Australian-based models under those brands, which were a compact car, a little bit smaller than the full-size stuff you guys had in the States.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. No, we don't, we don't fully appreciate that there are those differences for sure. And the Holden is a vehicle I have followed for probably 15, 20 years. It's a great vehicle. And I know there's even a race series, correct?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Well, we've got, in the past over here in Australia, the Utes, that was more Holden and Falcon. So they went head-on where the utilities, we call them like a pickup. Yeah. The pickup, right? Mm-hmm. But apart from that, with our motor racing over here, our Bathurst event is the grand final. That's the pinnacle. That's the granddaddy of races, which goes around the world. And Bathurst has always been traditionally a Holden versus Ford type of war. So not just specifically Holden, no. But see, the way times have changed as well. We're not building our Holden Commodore anymore. We're not making our Ford Falcon anymore. Mm-hmm. So now that's racing. That's another subject for another day. We don't really know where that's going to go. It might end up being, Camaros and Mustangs racing around Bathurst. Man, it could go that way because we still want our V8s. We do. Mm-hmm. That's the best invention ever made. The V8. You can't beat that.
I once had the Corvette on a quarter mile, and I was up against a Holden, and I think it was a Holden HSV. Would that be right?
Yeah, that's correct.
And boy, I did not calculate that one correctly. That was it was heavily modified, but that car, I'm not too. I can say this as a man. It blew my doors in. I mean, a great driver, an experienced driver, but it was quick.
Well, it's interesting. The last of the HSV and the Commodore, which was the 2016 model, 2017 model, were a 430 kilowatt car, which equates to 577 horsepower from the factory. Mm-hmm. And the LSA engine, the Corvette engine used in the United States, technically one of the most powerful production cars ever built here in Australia. The funny thing is, we had the muscle car era in the early 70s that the government wanted to put a stop to. And we're technically back, well, we were, we kind of are now. We're back in the muscle car era now, and government couldn't care less about it.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, you can see what's happening over here with the Mopars and the Dodge Demon and everything else. I mean, it's just, the GT500. I mean, it's getting to be unbelievable horsepower.
Yeah, well, we had 350 horsepower cars in the early 70s here, which for Australia was a big deal. We had our GT Falcon, which ran a 351 Cleveland. They were around about 350 horsepower from the factory. We had our six-cylinder Hemi Charger, which was around 305 horsepower from the factory with triple Weber carbies. These cars were big deals back in the day because the other cars around were only half that power if they were lucky. So these cars were streets ahead, and they were fast cars. Mm-hmm. Even today, even today, if your SUV you take the kids to school in, if it's got 350 horsepower, man, you've got a mover there.
It's
right?
a grocery getter, yeah.
We're all these decades down the track, so some people say, the old cars weren't fast. Well, the news flash is they were fast.
Yeah.
They were very fast for what they were. There's no two ways about that. And we actually had the power got taken away, the same with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
The emissions rules came in, so then cars started getting lower compression ratios, doughier type, lower profile camshafts, the power way. So, then we went through that transition period of the 70s where cars weren't as powerful, but then in some respects they got a little bit more luxurious here and there to try and make up for it, which was terrible because that made the cars heavier and even worse to drive. But
right.
anyway,
they floated.
Yeah, absolutely, that's it. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Now, do you have any personal classics in your garage?
Well, being the host of Classic Restos is a tough gig because you've got to kind of share the love a little bit. Mm-hmm. If you're just seen to be having one car and that's all you go on about, that kind of doesn't look too good. I've got a soft spot for all my full-size American cars. So if someone says, what's your favourite car? The full-size American stuff, that's number one. So now that's across the big three. But having said that, Darren, I can look at an old Stutz or a Cord or a Packard or an old Buick and have an amazing appreciation for that vehicle. So I've got a little bit of a combination. I'll be honest, I haven't got a full-size American Ford like a Galaxy, but I do have a Cadillac and a few Mopars.
Okay.
But who's to say that maybe a Lincoln might not appear down the track one day? They're long and square and rectangular, and there's bits and pieces poking off everywhere in shape and style. And I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking when they designed these things, but this is what I love about them. A 7-litre engine to take one guy to work.
That's right.
How do you work that?
That's right. Well,
you need a 20-foot long car stuck in rush hour in New York traffic to take one guy to work.
Right. It doesn't quite add up.
There's something about that you guys in the United States are the only country in the world that did that.
Guilty as charged. Yep, that's right. Well, you've talked us through from 2005. What is it that you're able to share, would like to share? What's next? Classic Restos, where does it go from here? Obviously, we are so in a world that's dominated by online and the presence there, the YouTube presence. So what do you hope to grow into, or corners of the world have you yet to explore?
I think predominantly what can happen in my game, I guess, is if there's one executive producer out there that realises what you do, and they've got a project in the boardroom and they want Fletch to come and host that show. That'd be something that's always been in the back of my mind. That would be an interesting phone call to receive one day. A cameo role, a small movie part. I've always been fascinated in movies and how movies are filmed. A small role there, I guess. But look, in the meantime, Classic Restos, the kick that I get out of that's the closest I can get to making my own movie, is doing Classic Restos every week in a very small sense, but it still, puts you in that parameter, that realm of that type of feeling. So to come up with new content every week for Classic Restos, even at the moment with the COVID going on, I'm still not going to be stopped because I've got over 600 episodes of old footage that I'm doing best of episodes of. So that means, swimming through all these shows, all this punishment that you've put yourself through to watch my stuff. I've actually got to go and do that now. And then I write new pieces in and around the old footage to do these best ofs. Now, I can sit here for another 12 months right here and do that from my yard if I have to. But before we can get back out to a car show. So and I try and make that as creative as I can. Mm-hmm. So to answer your question, where does it go from here? I think maintain what I've got, mm-hmm. and keep on going. Other TV shows have come and gone in the past, mm-hmm. and if you can just keep yourself going in this day and age, Darren, I think mission accomplished.
Well, that's it. It's a bit of being relevant. It's for me, and I hope my listeners truly know this, is that I always say this is their podcast, and I just happen to be behind the wheel. I welcome their feedback, their input, ideas of things they'd like shows about, or people to interview or talk to. And for me, it's very much I want to almost like a servant leadership, just to be there to help guide it along. But it is them, it is your followers, it is my audience, my followers that make it so great to do what we do, and I am grateful every single day.
Absolutely, and even what you're doing is a fantastic thing too, because you've got that diversity. It's the type of people, it's endless, the people that you can talk to. Mm-hmm. So your stuff's never going to run out either. Well, and if you do think you're running out, just ring me back.
That's right, and vice versa. Well, I want to say that I know you're an extremely busy guy. Here it is. It's 8:22 p.m. on a Wednesday night in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, USA. And in New South Wales, Australia, if I'm not mistaken, my math is correct, it's 10:23 a.m. Thursday, the next day, correct?
Absolutely, Darren. I haven't had breakfast yet.
And that man needs some coffee.
Well, look, I'd just like to end in also thanking a big thanks to Mike Garland, the media guy, if I can, for Carlisle Events. Mike has also been an integral part of being a massive help for Fletch and Classic Restos over the year as well. So, what should I say, over the many years, not over the year. Mm-hmm. And also, Mike played an integral part of hooking us up as well for your podcast. So I want to thank Mike for that as well.
Well, that's a very gentlemanly thing to do, and I'd like to underscore that and also extend my thanks to Mike Garland, too, because he did indeed make that connection. And what an honor it's been to get to know you through email and a previous call, and then now you're giving generously of your time. Fletch, thank you so very, very much, and I hope to see you and Donna stateside when this all lifts and we're all back to traveling.
Absolutely, Darren. I'd like to think this is the beginning of a long association between us. It's been a pleasure to chat to you in your podcast, and you run with what you've got as well, mate. You keep up your great work. Thanks, Darren.
Thank you. Back Cubers, can't wait to have Fletch come back stateside and visit and to hang out at any and all maybe of the 9 car shows at the Carlisle Fairgrounds. So be sure to check out his Classic Restos program. I can tell you I watch it on YouTube all the time. It's a lot of fun. So Fletch, can't wait to talk to you again soon. This week's trivia question. I had asked at the beginning of the show, what is the name of the car brand that formerly manufactured vehicles in Australia? And the hint I gave is that a major U.S. car manufacturer is heavily involved. The answer is Holden, and they are headquartered in Port Melbourne, Australia. Holden, which was formerly known as General Motors Holden, is an Australian automobile marque. It's a former automobile manufacturer, and they have manufactured cars in Australia before switching to the business of importing cars under that Holden brand. Some of those brands that they've produced models, they've had Nissan-based models, Opel-based models, Toyota-based models, of course Chevrolet-based models, Daewoo, Isuzu, and Suzuki. I talked earlier in the show too about the Courage Car Show. Be sure to check that out. You have an opportunity to join perhaps hundreds of other car fans and car owners who will definitely be showcasing their cars online in this virtual car show. And I know there are quite a few out there now, particularly because of the pandemic, but you won't want to miss this one. So go to carsofcarlisle.com, click on the license plate in the upper left page of the main splash, and you take it from there. So can't wait to have you come back over for next week's show featuring a cast member from the 1983 film Christine. And so for our friends and fans in Brazil and Portugal, I'll wish you a great week and say, Dirija bem, fique bem, cuide-se, or drive well, be well, take care.